Hey everyone, that was chapter 47 of Genesis talks about Jacob's family still in Goshen. It says, so Joseph went in and told Pharaoh, my father and my brothers, with their flocks and herds and all that they possess, have come from the land of Canaan. They are now in the land of Goshen, and from among his brothers he took 5 men and presented them to Pharaoh. Pharaoh said to his brothers, what is your occupation? They said to Pharaoh, your servants and our shepherds as our fathers were. They said to Pharaoh, we have come to sojourn in the land, for there is no pasture for your servants' flocks, for the famine is severe in the land of Canaan. And now please let now please let your servants dwell in the land of Goshen. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, your father and your brothers have come to you. The land of Egypt is before you. Sell your father and your brothers and the best of the land. Let them sell in the land of Goshen. And if you know any able men among them, put them in charge of my livestock. Then Joseph brought in Jacob his father and stood before him Pharaoh. And Jacob blessed Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Jacob, how many are the days of the years of your life? And Jacob said to Pharaoh, the days of the years of my sojourning are 130 years. So at this time Jacob was 130 years old. Few and evil have been the days of the years of my life, and they have not attained to the days of the years of the life of my fathers in the days of their sojourning. And Jacob blessed Pharaoh and went out from the presence of Pharaoh. And then Joseph settled his father and his brothers, and gave them possession of the land of Egypt and the best of the land, and the land of Ramses, as Pharaoh had commanded. And Joseph provided his father, his brothers, and all his father's household with food according to the number of their dependents. Joseph in the famine. Now there was no food in all the land, for the famine was very severe, so that the land of Egypt and the land of Canaan, which is Israel today, languished by reason of the famine. So that they were both Egypt and Israel were both experiencing this famine. Hence why Joseph brought some down to Egypt, so they could store their food. And Joseph gathered up all the money that was found in the land of Egypt and the land of Canaan, in exchange for the grain that they brought. And Joseph brought the money into Pharaoh's house. And when the money was all spent in the land of Egypt and the land of Canaan, all the Egyptians came to Joseph and said, give us food, we should die, or why should we die before your eyes, for our money is gone? And Joseph answered, give your livestock, and I will give you food in exchange for your livestock, if your money is gone. So they brought their livestock to Joseph, and Joseph gave them food in exchange for the horses and the flocks, the herds and the donkeys. He supplied them with food in exchange for all their livestock that year. And when that year was ended, they came to him the following year and said to him, we will not hide from my lord that our money is all spent. The herds of livestock are my lord's. There is nothing left in the sight of my lord but our bodies and our land. Why should we die before your eyes, both we and our land? Buy us and our land for food, and we with our land will be servants to Pharaoh. And give us seed that we may live and not die, that the land may not be desolate. So Joseph bought all the land of Egypt for Pharaoh, for all the Egyptians sold their fields because the famine was severe on them. The land became Pharaoh's. As for the people, he made servants of them from one end of Egypt to the other. So basically, like I said a while ago, this is pretty much pinpointing when the Jews became the slaves of Egypt, which then leads up to Moses leading them out of Egypt to Israel. Only the land of the priests he did not buy, for the priests had a fixed allowance from Pharaoh, and lived on the allowance that Pharaoh gave them. Therefore they did not sell their land. Then Joseph said to the people, behold, I have this day bought you and your land for Pharaoh. Now here is seed for you, and you shall sow the land, and at the harvest you shall give a fifth to Pharaoh, and a fourth fifth shall be your own, as seed for the field, and as food for yourselves and your households, and as food for your little ones. And they said, you have saved our lives. May it please my Lord, we'll be servants to Pharaoh, or pretty much slaves to Pharaoh. So Joseph made it a statute or a rule concerning the land of Egypt, and it stands to this day that Pharaoh should have the fifth. So it stands to this day that Pharaoh, which, I mean, that could be talking about, the president now. I mean, who knows? The president of Egypt. Because it says, and it stands to this day, means still today, that Pharaoh, which could be talking about now, of possibly Mercy, who's of course the president now of Egypt, who was put in by Obama. It says there should have the fifth, the land of the priests. The law did not come or my bad, it says the land of the priests alone did not become Pharaoh's. Let me read that again. It says Pharaoh should have the fifth, the land of the priests alone did not become Pharaoh's. So thus Israel settled in the land of Egypt and the land of Goshen, and they gained possessions in it, and were fruitful, multiplied greatly, and Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years. So the days of Jacob, the years of his life, he lived 147 years. Wow. And when the time drew near that Israel must die, he called his son Joseph and said to him, If now I have found favor in your sight, put your hand under my thigh, and promise to deal kindly and truly with me. Do not bury me in Egypt, but let me lie with my fathers. Carry me out of Egypt and bury me in the burying place. He answered, I will do as you have said. And he said, Swear to me. And he swore to him. Then Israel bowed himself upon the bed, or upon the head of the bed. So I mean, it's very interesting. This is kind of talking about when pretty much Israel became the slaves of Egypt, because Pharaoh said, if you will do this to me, or if you would do this for me, you know, or my bad, what's going on here is Israel, I got confused. Israel is saying, you know, Pharaoh, if you give this to us, we'll become your servants, pretty much your slaves. And this is when the Jews became their slaves, and later on in Exodus, Moses leads them out of Egypt to their own nation, which is Israel. So they're very interesting. Now I'm gonna go back to this real quick, where it says to this day, which is verse. Let me look. Okay, this is verse 26. It says, So Joseph made it a statute concerning, which is a rule concerning the land of Egypt, and it stands to this day. So to this day, it still stands that Pharaoh. It's talking about Pharaoh, but this could also be talking about modern day Egypt. Should have the fifth of the land. The land of the priest alone did not become Pharaoh's. So basically what it's saying is Egypt belongs to Egypt, of course, but some of Egypt actually belongs to Israel. Now, of course, Israel had the Sinai Peninsula occupied, and then they had to give it back to Egypt after the 6 Day War or whatever. They made a peace treaty or whatever. So I mean, I could be talking about that. I'm not for sure though. It's very interesting though. But anyway, I mean, you know, that's 47 pretty much. Jacob's family settles in Goshen, and then they pretty much become Pharaoh's slaves, and then later on Moses leads them along to the Promised Land. So I'll leave that with 48 in a minute.